Welcome to the channel. Shocking photo of the world.
German animal trader and plantation owner John Hagenbeck and German zoologist Ludwig Heck with locals and an elephant. South Asia, 1931. John Hagenbeck also recruited people for human zoos in Europe. The last human zoo closed in Holland in 1958. Fish Porter, Istanbul, 1964. Decades ago, the Turkish metropolis was flooded with poor migrants from rural areas, and many of them joined the hordes of porters who crowded the crowded bazaars and wholesale warehouses. Gas station advertising in Turkey in the 1960s. Advertising used to be interesting, but nowadays it is too easy to vulgarize it. Lady and Payphone, 1980s. Bronx, New York. Confession, Canada, 1955. Jesuit priests hear confessions from Catholic pilgrims at the Martyrs Church near Midland. Annette Kellerman campaigns for women's right to wear form-fitting bathing suits. She is arrested for indecent exposure. 1907. Miners rise from a mine shaft in an elevator after a day's work. Belgium, 1920s. Arikara warrior bear belly. North Dakota, USA. Photo by Edward Curtis. 1909. Lockheed Martin employee Sally Wadsworth works on the fuselage of a Lockheed P-38 Lightning in California in 1944. Grand Central Station in New York, 1929. These beams can no longer be seen today, as the station is surrounded by high-rise buildings. Women visiting relatives and friends quarantined at a level hospital, Oslo. Photo by Anders Beer Wills, 1905. Geologist Thomas Griffith Taylor and meteorologist Charles Wright at the entrance to an ice cave. Terra Nova Expedition, Ross Island, 5 January 1911. Photograph by Herbert Ponting. A family of mother and 9 children living in a field on US Highway 70 near the Tennessee River, March 1936. The last saw duel in French history between the mayor of Marseille and the Socialist Party presidential candidate, 1967. Sechwayo, the Zulu ruler who defeated the British at the Battle of Isandlwana, 1878. Pamir, the world's last commercial sailing ship, making trade voyages around Cape Horn, 1949. An outdoor hockey match in Sweden that had to be urgently interrupted, 1959. The oldest Austrian soldier of World War I, 79-year-old Gaspard Vornifer, a veteran of the Habsburg campaigns in Italy in 1848 and 1866, September 1917. Austin Western Model 40 motor sweeper, USA, San Francisco, 1950. US, Capitol, Spittoon Cleaners, Washington, D.C., USA, 1914. This 1914 photograph shows 2 African American men working at the U.S. Capitol. One on the left has a mop and bucket. The other on the right has a stack of spittoons and a cleaning brush. On the right are 2 brooms and a carpet brush. A 33-horse combine, Walla Walla, circa 1902. This combine has over 30 horsepower. Police guard the courthouse during the trial of notorious bank robber John Dillinger, January 30, 1934. During his criminal career, he robbed about 24 banks and 4 police stations and escaped from prison twice. A girl wrestles an alligator in a farm pool, Los Angeles, California, 1900. Miss Eleanor Link, a 16-year-old girl, has an unusual hobby, wrestling live alligators. She has learned their habits and is quite familiar with them. But there is always the chance that one of the lizards will mistake her for an enemy and bite her. Casting for the role of a black cat, Hollywood, 1961. An atypical event. I wonder what the criteria were. Unfortunately, it was not possible to find out what film the casting was for. A black couple who recently moved into a white neighborhood look at a racist graffiti in front of their home. Chicago, USA, 1957. The tradition of kissing in Times Square began with a photograph by Alfred Eisenstadt of American sailor Glenn McDuffie kissing nurse Edith Shane. Dressed in a white dress, on victory over Japan Day, August 14, 1945. After the First World War, the Spanish flu, also known as the Spanish flu, raged across the world. During the 18 months of the epidemic, in 1918-1919, more than 550 million people were infected, which at that time constituted almost a third of the entire population of the globe. The last photo of rapper Tupac Shakur, taken just 20 minutes before he was killed in a drive-by shooting in 1996. Photographs of Algerian women during the Algerian War of Independence, 1960. At the age of 10, George Davey was sentenced to 1 month's hard labour at Wandsworth Prison for stealing to rabbits. London, England, 1872. The hand of a radiographer at the Royal London Hospital showing damage from radiation exposure, 1900. Mary Ann Bevan, 1874-1933, was an English woman who toured the world as the ugliest woman in the world after her appearance changed dramatically due to developing acromegaly. 30-year-old Leonardo DiCaprio, through the lens of Chilean photographer Nino Munoz, Los Angeles, USA, 2004. Robert Downey Jr. is photographed after being sentenced to 3 years in prison for possession of multiple drugs and weapons, 1999. Camera with flash units, 1931. The flash unit is most likely made of magnesium foil, which was later used to create disposable Cube flash units. They actually had thin wire, not foil, that were attached to the camera. William Steig, creator of Shrek, with professional wrestler Morris Tillett, who was the inspiration for the character. 1940 South. A German soldier disobeys a direct order and helps a boy separated from his family cross the newly erected Berlin Wall. 1961. A San Francisco police officer scolds a man for not wearing a mask during the 1918 flu pandemic. In 1969, when black Americans were still banned from swimming with whites, host Mr. Rogers invited Officer Clements onto his show and invited him to soak his feet in the tub together. The Supreme Court ruled racial segregation unconstitutional less than 4 months ago. Charles was the only African American student at the school. Photo by Richard Staggs for the Baltimore Sun. A man arrested for cross-dressing gets out of a police van. New York, 1939. A man in Durban rides a bus reserved for white passengers in protest against South Africa's apartheid policies, 1986. An American soldier shelters a wounded Japanese boy from the rain in the cockpit of an airplane during the Battle of Saipan, while awaiting transport to a field hospital. July 1944. Otto Frank and Frank's father in the attic where they hid from the Nazis. He was the only survivor of the family. 1960. The execution of 17-year-old Yugoslav partisan Lepa Rodi near Gradiška in 1943, when the Nazis offered to reveal her accomplices in exchange for her life. She replied, "They will reveal themselves when villains like you are destroyed." Albert Einstein, his secretary Helen left, and daughter Margaret Wright receive U.S. citizenship to avoid returning to Nazi Germany. 1940. The tallest Nazi soldier, Jacob Nacken, 2.1 meters tall, chats with Canadian Corporal Bob Roberts, 1.60 meters tall, after surrendering to him. France, September 1944. Ilya Repin and Korny Chukovsky in Penalty, 1913. To geniuses of their time, a great artist and a renowned writer, publicist and translator, Alexander Abdulov in the Kitchen, 1970s. One of the most beloved actors of Russian cinema. Among his iconic works are the films 12 Chairs, The Meeting Place Cannot Be Changed, and An Ordinary Miracle. Audrey Hepburn in Sussex, England, 1951. 3 years later, she would win her first Oscar for a role in Roman Holiday. The Fastest Woman in the World, Kitty O'Neill, 1979. She was deaf since childhood, but learned to speak and read lips. She jumped from skyscrapers and set speed records. Her whole life was a struggle for survival. I recommend reading the biography of the stuntwoman in more detail. Vintage photographs of department store workers on their lunch break, Tennessee, USA, 1900. Ironclad Galena of the James River Navy, 1862. The ship was built in 1862 and was the first ironclad ship. It saw action during the Civil War.